Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday. First request is to make sure that you can see me and you can hear me. So if all of you could just let me know. I'm going to look at your messages just to make sure. Don't want any more mistakes. Though tonight is about silence, so you never know what's on the plan. Yes, I've got a drink. Becky, thank you very much. Look, I have a drink. If you can see it, where there's a time delay. Just a minute, here it comes. Look, look, look. Here it is. So I think we're all set for another lovely evening. Yes, 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 loud and clear. Wow, new glasses looking great. Thank you, Yvonne. They're my second pair of glasses, and my other ones I can't find. So you get to see these ones. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Angela. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about hi, Michael and Doreen. Richard, hello, hello. Everyone can hear me. Yes. Good. So tonight we're going to talk about the sound of silence. And I think what would be really nice is if we have just a simple meditation to begin with. So if you all would be so kind as to have a comfortable position, not slouched. Close your eyes. And feel your breath coming in, hold it, and release. Feel your breath, hold it, and release. Feel your breath coming in, hold it, and release. Now visualize you're sitting within an equilateral pyramid of pink light. Allow the color to relax your whole body. Feel your breath, hold it, and release. Feel your breath, hold it, and release. One more time. Feel your breath, hold it, and release. Now expand this pyramid to the room you're sitting in. Take it further to surround your village or city, your country, expand it to circle the earth. Be aware of all of humanity being covered and touched by pink. the animals, the trees, all of creation is in the light of pink. Slowly return to your country, to your village, to the room you're sitting in. Once again, be within the pyramid and take this pink light, make it smaller and smaller, and place it in your heart. Feel the love and compassion. And in your own time, open your eyes and come back to the room. Thank you, everyone. Whatever is happening in your world, interesting, a dog barking. And Jenna, the Brahma Kumaris actually meditate with their eyes open. And I knew some Tibetan lamas that always had a pyramid of glass in front of you, and you'd focus on that. And some people focus on a candle. And tonight, Jenna, you're focusing on me. So, I have a question for you. What do you think silence is? Perhaps you could give me a short idea of what you think silence is. So I will wait for some answers, if you have any. Otherwise, I am going to start with a story. Many years ago, when I wasn't very well, I went to my Ayurvedic doctor in London, and he talked to me about the space between our perceptions of what we see, what we think, and what is that place? And of course, I didn't have an answer that day, but I walked out into the street after the session, and it was dark, it was winter, and it was pouring with rain in London. And I could see all the reflections and the lights and the cars going by and the rain coming down, and suddenly time changed. It was like it was in a slow motion. And there it was, the space between my visual experience. And I went on to start to meditate, and these experiences have become more normal. And we've got, Isabel says silence is the absence of distractions. Erica says solitude. Karen said, well, I always thought that silence is the absence of sound. And Lily's with Erica about solitude. Well, I would like to take it a little bit deeper. When human beings first came to be on this planet, we had to be very active. We had to do that for survival. And we were hunting. It's just like this, we had to go into this observational stillness and be very, very, very quiet as we watched the deer. Or if you take a lion, you watch him and he's about to jump on his prey. And he's still, he's holding it. To be in survival mode, we really have to be able to do that, particularly for many centuries, until our consciousness has evolved and we're starting to connect and realize that there's some other place beyond the sound of the cars and pleasure and pain and joy, and there's a sound of the life force, and there's a sound of the passing over, and there's a sound of silence. And it takes a still moment to touch it. And sometimes you could reach it if you have a lot of endorphins and you're running or you're dancing like crazy and you touch it, you can hear it, but it doesn't sustain us when you touch that. It gives you an inkling. I know I've had a few of those inklings that have said, yes, it exists, and I want to reach the sustainability of something like that in my life. I know it's possible. Now, the thing is, the sounds that we tend to live in are generally on the surface of life, reality that we've created. And mankind has developed a very compulsive way of needing the sounds. To go quiet and to listen is very difficult for many people. And it's the core of life is absent of sound. But that's not the silence that we're talking about. It's a special dimension that's beyond life and death. It's a dimension of something that starts with our soul realization. Very special place. And, within a lot of my experiences in mental color therapy as a healer, helping people with their disharmonies, it's usually caused because we haven't spent enough time with ourselves in the stillness. We're not managing, or maybe we don't realize that we can manage who we are, that we can have a balance between the sounds of the compulsive living, because we have to be active, but there's a way of identifying from the silence of your soul into the activity of your day. And there have been times I've practiced this washing the nappies of my kids. I really love it. In Lindos, we had this big green bucket, and in the days that I refused to use disposable nappies because I didn't want to cut down trees, I had cloth ones. Forgive me if you've heard this story before, but I put them, the cloth ones, they're triangular, I bought from Mother Care, and I would, like the Italians do with their wine, their grapes at the end of the season, they all get in, pull up their skirts in the big vats, and I did that with my nappies. Unfortunately, we didn't have an electric dryer, so I would hang them up on the clothesline. And as things turned out, they were very rigid and stiff. And Alice was the one that experienced that most of the time. But when we finally owned the house, we got a dryer because that makes them softer. It probably doesn't help with using energy, but I wasn't as conscious about that part then. Life is such a balance of things. But if we come back to silence and stillness, it's not about stopping talking or plugging up your ears so you can't hear anything. It's something deeper that as you go more and more towards self-realization and consciousness, and leaving a compulsive behavior and having more of an intent of how you use your silence that sounds, or how your words, what energy are they projecting out into the universe? How are they, you are a creator of your life. We don't have to be victims to what we hear all around us. And if every one of us started to shift that, I think our lives would be very different as a collective. So now that a large amount of us are thinking about a conscious path, what do we have to do? How to balance this outward sounds we're involved with and the inner sounds. We're starting to observe, watching what sounds we make. I mean, even every thought has a sound. Everything is a vibration. And we're part of it all the time. I think a lot of people withdraw from the noise that's everywhere because they don't realize that you can be still and balanced and be in this world without necessarily being bombarded by the sound that's there. It's quite a challenge. I remember a day when it was just too much to be in a crowd. Interesting, I came from rock and roll, loud concerts, thousands of people cheering, wanting the volume to be really loud. And look at me now. I'm valuing, I still go to concerts. I still listen to Matthew's music with headphones. But the majority of my reality is from a different place of the quiet of the soul, the quiet of creating, painting, creating my day each day with gratefulness. So I ask you another question. I mean, we can't do silence, really. The deep truth of silence, we can't do it. But we can become it. And you can start to practice silence in some way. Find little things that you do to help feel that quiet sound of nature, of the wind, things that soften you. There's even a sound that goes with the flowers, the vibration of them, or the ocean, and feel nature sounds. That's a good beginning. And then it will go deeper. And little by little, it will become more of a reality that you sustain because you have become it. We've just forgotten. So it's just sometimes I say to myself, okay, practicing silence. Am I actually practicing? Am I living life or am I practicing life? Am I touching the truth of who I am within the life, or am I just wearing a mask? So all those things do have an influence. Those questions are very important to ask. And when you start to become the silence that sounds within, that brings healing and beauty and love to you, that's sustainable. That becomes your priority. We love to be still. We love to listen to what calls us from within. So I'm going to look and see what you're saying. Aha. Becky's burning frankincense and an orange candle for happiness. Oh, sounds pretty cool. Hi, Anne. Hi, Juliet. We had a meditation before you got here. You might want to listen to the replay. Becky, a spiritual plane. Lori is saying absolutely. Okay, Becky, we're going to have... Kimberly tried cloth diapers, but didn't last long. Too stinky for me. Yeah, I remember it very well. When we were doing the wall in LA, they were recording. They've got some great diaper services. You have them in a bucket and someone comes along and replaces the bucket with clean, dry nappies. That was a year of bliss. So, Becky, we're having a bit of on and off again. Well, just to let you know, BT's coming on Friday afternoon. And hopefully things will improve. Because Matthew and I are, it sort of breaks things a little bit. But you're hanging in there with us. Thank you very much. I have something that I want to read to you. And I hope it doesn't break up. Okay, Juliet says she had a moment the other night. She was listening to some meditation music in bed because she couldn't sleep. I felt I needed silence. Did it work? What was your experience when you were meditating? Because in that process of observing, that's the next step beyond the survival mode. Meditation is really a really good practice to bring in the stillness and to learn. We need a bit of this. We need contact with a bit of silence, particularly with the sounds that are zooming around or even in our heads. We need to find that balance, otherwise it will be imbalanced most of the time. I was watching Sadhguru the other day on silence, and he said, actually, that you need to learn to have a type of silence, like if you had a scarf and you picked it up and you just let it float down. That bit of grace of this floating scarf. That's the type of silence we need, particularly during the time that we might be passing over. That's one of the important reasons why we need to practice and contact this silence of life. Because if you don't know how to do that, when death comes, it's like you're entering in the other doorway. You're going into that place of silence. And if you haven't had the chance to build that doorway, it will be like something's tearing you apart. And I've observed that with several people. And I understand more now, listening to him. I didn't realize how important it was. I mean, I've been working years, and it was, I wanted to do that because I wanted more stillness and peace and joy in my life. But I have to say now, knowing the importance of it for when you're passing over, it's I'm putting my phone on silent, by the way, because that was the one thing I forgot to do. Juliet says, yes, I turned off the music and felt more relaxed in myself. Then I slept in lovely silence. Massimiliano. Hi. The sound of the bees, the rustle of the leaves, the silence of the sea. Yep. And you know what? What's important is actually the silence between the sounds. And I want to read something to you tonight that you might never have heard before. And it's by Sting. And it's called The Silence in Music. I won't read all the beginning of what degrees he got and all that stuff, but if anyone wants to send me your email and I'll send you a copy of it. He said, as a musician, you've mastered the laws of harmony and the rules of counterpoint, the skills of arranging and orchestrating, of developing a theme and rhythmic motives. But do any of us really know what music is? Is it merely physics? Is it mathematics? The stuff of romance, commerce? Why is music so important to us? What is its essence? He said, I can't even pretend to know. I've written hundreds of songs, had them published, had them in the charts with Grammys and enough written proof that I'm a bona fide successful songwriter. Still, if somebody asked me how I write songs, I'd have to say, I really don't know. I don't really know where they come from. A melody is always a gift from somewhere else. You just have to learn to be grateful and pray that you will be blessed again some other time. It's the same with lyrics. You can't write a song without a metaphor. You can mechanically construct verses and choruses and bridges and middle eights, but without a central metaphor, you ain't got nothing. He says, I often wonder, where do melodies come from? Where do metaphors come from? If you could buy them in a store, I'd be the first one in the queue, believe me. I'd spend most of my time searching for those mysterious commodities, searching for inspiration. Paradoxically, I'm coming to believe in the importance of silence in music. The power of silence after a phrase of music, for example, the dramatic silence after the first 4 notes of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, or the space between the notes of Miles Davis's solos. There's something very specific about a rest in music. You take your foot off the pedal and pay attention. I'm wondering, as musicians, whether the most important thing we do is merely to provide a frame for silence. I'm wondering if silence itself is perhaps the mystery at the heart of music. And is silence the most perfect form of music at all? Songwriting is only a form of meditation, I know. And it is only in silence that the gifts of melody and metaphor are offered. To people in the modern world, true silence is something we surely and rarely experience. It's almost as if we conspire to avoid it. 3 minutes of silence seems like a very, very long time. It forces us to pay attention to ideas and emotions we rarely make any time for. There are some who find this very frightening. Silence is disturbing. It is disturbing because it is the wavelength of the soul. If we leave no space in our music, and I have to say, I'm very guilty, as anyone else is in this regard. So if we don't leave space in the music, then we rob the sound we make of a defining context. It is often music born from anxiety to create more anxiety. It's almost as if we're afraid of leaving space. Great music is as often about the space between the notes as it is about the notes themselves. A bar's rest is as significant as the bar of the demi-quavers that precedes it. What I'm trying to say here is that if I am ever asked if I'm religious, I always reply, yes, I'm a devout musician. Music puts me in touch with something beyond the intellect, something otherworldly, something sacred. So I hope my internet behaved itself. Yes, there we go. As Sting said, even playing music, the silence between the notes is more important than the notes you play. It's like a mixture of the two. It's a blend. But we forget about the importance of the spaces. And as he said, that often the sounds that we create just creates more anxiety. And we are the creators. We are the musicians of the sound of our lives. And so the question is, or maybe the thought is, let's create the sound that comes from the silence into the music of our daily lives. Be still. If you take an hour of your life, how many words do you think you speak or even think in that hour? Are there any mathematicians in the audience? Juliet, I'd be happy to post it to you because it goes on. So, back to the question. A lot of people, Lily says, yeah. Well, if we're looking for finding a balance between the silence that sounds and the sound of our lives, which, as I said, includes our thoughts and our emotions that are spinning around up there, stillness is something important that will help balance that out. So apparently, if you were to, do an experiment, and I don't know how we can do this, figure out how many words you thought or spoke. And I know some people that just don't stop talking. See if you can reduce that in half. See if you could, sometimes it's really good if you write a lecture or something. See if you could concile it down, make it half, and if you could hold the essence of that. And the same thing happens with how many words you think. If you start thinking, as part of my conscious path, I will see if I could take the essence of the thoughts and bring it down to half. And then another time, see if you could bring it down to the essence of a third. And maybe you could bring it down to a drop. Cecil, in the art classes that I took for many years, and when COVID's over, I want to give them in person, but until then, I can only tell you the story. He would, we would be drawing in a certain way, moving in a certain way with the model, and then he would tell us what instruments to use, and generally this would take about 10 minutes. And then as we got to the end of the day, the time sequence came down. So he'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then eventually it was like 1. And that 1, that line would capture the essence of the movement of the model. It's fascinating. Maybe I should dig out a few out of the drawer and show you next time. The whole pattern of the movement to finally getting to the 1. So I'm just going to look at what you guys are saying. Kimberly totally agrees with him because I write poetry and it just comes from inside my soul. A messenger of the beauty of sound. Yvonne said, when I was in my teens, I found the silence hard to take. I found it difficult to bear the feeling of listening too deeply to myself. Something was always switched on, the radio, the music, TV. That changed completely when I started to listen to Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. I bet. Music in the early 90s. He also had thoughts and ideas about music and silence very similar to the thoughts you mentioned. Nowadays, it's mostly quiet around me and I listen to music consciously. Well done. Stockhausen also had a vision of what a theater for music for us to go and listen to should be. And what I find interesting is Rick Wright, the organ player for the Floyd. I didn't know until I wrote my memoirs and I met Father John, who was a Cathar, who asked me to do his portrait. He was also a pianist and wrote wonderful music, and he had an orchestra. And the daughter of Stockhausen was in that orchestra. We became very good friends, and I found out that Rick Wright was very influenced by Stockhausen and the Floyd, and that's why they had the sound the round, so that we were enveloped into the sound and the sensitivity of it going all the way around. When I first heard that, it was like, wow, I went somewhere within me. So space and time and silence is something that's really important to the harmony of who you are and what your lives are like. And I think everyone's talking about entering back into our normal life after this year of COVID. Hopefully we're entering back into it, but it's something new. And it's something based upon the idea of silence. And what music are we creating with our own vibrations? We've had a year of going through something, and I think it's certainly part of the metamorphosis. And we have a great possibility and opportunity right now. It will all depend on each of us. We're the lotus flower rising out of the mud. And right now we're training ourselves, inspiring ourselves to walk in conscious care and love and compassion. So, bit by bit, we can train ourselves to be still. Not all the time, but our words, our movements can be still. It can just float with the harmony and the beauty of what life is, instead of crashing around and making all this noise that just destroys. Hi, Garnet. Juliet says that that's interesting. I was given a task to write my life story and why I'm where I am now. But in short, just writing the most pertinent points, edit edit and edit again. It was interesting. It made me think of most influential points of my life. And I have to say, I feel like there's something new beginning for me. There's another aspect of Ginger being born. And I feel like the same's happening with humanity, every one of us. And if only we knew, we wouldn't be in the delirium. Mind you, when you go through a transformation phase on an energetic level, your cellular tissues are changing. It's like someone said that every 7 years you get new cells anyway, but when your vibration becomes more refined and the sound that you prefer to radiate, then there's an actual physical thing that starts to happen with your cells as that changes. So don't freak out, because it's something normal. Doreen says, hello brightness, my old friend, love from the sacred desert. She lives in California. I've known her forever and love her forever. So Juliet says, this last year has changed me for the better. It made me think deeply about an awful lot of things, and it's been cathartic for me, I feel, and apparently I've helped her so much in this, and Juliet will be deep friends for a very long time. And we're coming to a close, everyone, so see if you could do this exercise of reducing the amount of words or time that you're speaking in an hour. Consciously say, okay, I am going to really watch what I'm going to say and make it the essence of what I want to say. It's, I was thinking I might write something and then see if I could